Hey everyone, Brian Zane here. Well, Survivor Series 2022 in the books now. Of course, it's the first show on the main roster where War Games is finally given its due, opening and closing the show on this night. And boy, really giving Survivor Series a big four feel for sure here. The first Survivor Series in the Triple H regime. I think this was a pretty good return to form. One of the best things about this show, no brand supremacy bullshit. Raw and Smackdown, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just about the matches themselves, and I think that alone helped improve my vibe going into the show. Like I said, the show opens with the Women's War Games match. As I predicted, Becky Lynch was chosen as the fifth person to join Bianca Belair's team as they announced on Smackdown, and I think this match was a pretty good return to form for her, especially as a vehicle to kind of herald the return of Becky Lynch, because she looked pretty good, but we'll get to that as this thing goes on. Bianca and Dakota Kai start things off. Bianca starts out strong in those first 5 minutes. Dakota taking one of her many bumps into the cage wall tonight. Big power bomb before Io Sky comes in next. The champs work over Bianca. They struggle to do something in the corner, but Bianca's still pretty strong. Asuka comes in next to even things up. Nikki Cross shows up next, starts bringing in the weapons, including some oddly shaped pans. Like, are these supposed to be trays from catering or some 3D printers? Horrible misinterpretation of trash can lids. Alexa Bliss enters next as a house of fire. Bianca grabs a kendo stick from Nikki and breaks it over her knee. Nikki climbs to the top, and after a little bit of fighting back in the ring, she dives off the top onto everyone. Bayley's out next. Now she is the one who gets out the stuff. There's some big old ladders and a table. It takes 3 people to execute a bad looking moonsault onto Bliss. All of Bianca's team is down until Michin Mia Yim arrives, and right there's the answer to the question about what she would be called, because it seems there was some confusion early on this week about that, but it seems to be that's the nickname now. She gets to also be Mia Yim. I like that. Even more weapons. Everyone's up on a corner now, and they all kill time, and eventually they all fall just in time for the counter to wind down for Rhea Ripley to arrive. Bianca's team has been devastated, and Io does some Lance Storm-like shots to the head as Becky Lynch finally shows up and the match officially begins. Becky with a leg drop onto Io, who's wearing a trash can. We have Becky with the face-off with Bayley. Rhea comes in, hits the riptide, but the pin's broken up. Rhea is hit with the mist. We get a ridiculous Tower of Doom spot teased before Nikki breaks it up. Io with this ridiculous top of cage moonsault to Bianca and Yim. That's her trademark now. Nikki Cross getting out the cuffs. She and Alexa have a fight. Alexa cuffing herself to Nikki. Hits an electric chair where she takes her own bump on the trash can. Nikki gets none of that. Ripley slamming Yim through the ladder. Becky and Bianca face off with damage control. They scrap. Becky hits a top rope leg drop onto Kai and Sky through tables to win. It was all right. I mean, there were a lot of spots that seemed to be blown here. It looked kind of contrived at certain points. There were also a lot of moments in this match where the weapons were brought in and the weapons were kind of a hindrance to whatever spot they were supposed to be part of than helping it. I think the reason there is just this extra focus, and I noticed this in the men's match tonight as well, the reason there's such a focus now on the weapons in War Games is because it's the consolation, because there's no blood. Like, sorry, I don't think we're going to get blood in War Games in WWE. It's just not going to happen unless it's Hardway or something. You're not going to get like the excitement of blood in wrestling, so you've got to make up for that by having people swinging stuff. It's a sad reality. Anyway, still some good action throughout this thing. Like I said, it was a good way to bring Becky Lynch back into the fold, looking strong here in her return. Now, where does she stand amongst the pecking order in the title scene, since she and Bianca are both baby faces now? Backstage, Jey Uso talking to Roman Reigns, saying Sami Zayn can't be trusted after what he overheard the day before with he and Kevin Owens. What are they going to do? Roman says what Jey is going to do is take care of Jey. He says he'll talk to Sami himself and find out where his loyalties lie, and a great exchange here at the end where he asks Heyman to get Sami Zayn, so Paul just talks into his phone. Call Sami Zayn. I love that. Up next, Finn Balor taking on AJ Styles, and they're accompanied to the ring by their respective goons in the Judgment Day and the OC respectively. Also, each leader coming out with their own special mask. Tell you what, by the end of the year, every stable should have their leader wearing a mask. I mean, Sheamus, he started the trend early when he had the broken nose and he had that face mask he was wearing. Roman Reigns should have a mask. Why not? I love that they talk about the deep, rich history of the club they don't want to mention by name. It's a great match. Some well-paced stuff between the two of them here. Some Judgment Day shenanigans on the apron lead to a big brawl between the Good Brothers and Judgment Day. They brawl into the crowd, so it's finally one-on-one again. Big stomp to the chest of Styles. Finn going for the Styles clash, but AJ fights out of it. Pele for Pele. A beautiful moonsault reverse DDT by Styles. Calf crusher gets broken up. AJ's chest is all lit up. Were they really chopping each each other that much during this matchup. AJ coming back and Styles hits the phenomenal forearm to win, and it turns out it's his first singles win in 3 years. What? I can't believe that stat. I saw that Solomonster posted that on Twitter before I just recorded this, and I can't believe that statistic. But either way, I give this match 4 stars. I think that, you put these two in the ring and a little bit of magic happens, and a little goes a long way with these guys. I like how the guys on the outside were incorporated, the story they told with that, keeping that team dynamic very much alive in the build, not just for the build up to this matchup, but also in the match itself, which will continue on to more things likely. And yeah, like I said, in an alternate timeline, if there weren't War Games, I think you also could have justified having a Survivor Series match alongside the War Games, and you could have had that done here. Maybe we'll get some of the kind of team aspect later on. It was just a great match from two guys who have really good chemistry with each other, and they were in a rough spot. It was the death spot after the War Games match. People are tired, they have to get ready and geared up for the next one, so they're kind of mentally thinking ahead to that, and they have to go a long time because it's only 5 matches on a show, but they were still able to do it. Some good action and good storytelling. Then we move on to kind of the opposite of that last match in a lot of ways. It's for the SmackDown Women's Championship as Ronda Rousey defends against Shotzi. Early on, the story they're telling here is that Shotzi does kind of have an answer, and she's kind of very aggressive from the start against Ronda, but then at one point Ronda just picks her out of the sky with this hip toss counter. These two do not have the best chemistry here in the match, which is saying something. Ronda's got Shotzi tied up in a hold, and we hear this very audible "We want Sasha" chant coming, and it's from her hometown of Boston, so that's very apropos. But yeah, Rut-Row, not the best kind of chant you want to be hearing during a match like this. Shotzi, the real highlight of this match, if you want to call it, the biggest spot I think they were going to have in this thing was Shotzi's attempted DDT on the apron, but it looks terrible. Ronda does not go down with her. She kind of leaves Shotzi out to dry and land pretty awkwardly. So not the best spot. There's more fighting on the outside. The ladies are launched into some, quote, fans sitting in the front row, and they all get laid out and the chairs fall backwards and everything. This massive, explosive spot where everyone's just down and selling for these two people who just kind of fell on them. Back in the ring, Piper's Pit and the armbar for Ronda to retain. I give it 1 star out of 5. It was kind of a hard match to watch. I don't know why that DDT spot went as poorly as it did. It just feels like it could have gone better, or just take the spot out if there's going to be doubts about that. The stuff with the fans getting involved, or the plants, it just seemed kind of ludicrous. It seemed like it was a lot of extra seasoning on a match that wasn't going to be regarded anyway. It was kind of a formality where this is going to go. So they spiced it up however they could, but I just don't think it really worked. They didn't have the chemistry to pull this one off, sadly. And I think Ronda is so much better at chasing a championship than she is at being the champion, at least in this, her most current run in the company. I think, she's better as a heel than a babyface, but better as a challenger than a champion. Backstage, Roman's got a chat with Sami Zayn. He asks him what happened out there with Kevin Owens on SmackDown. Sami admitting what happened, but that KO talked at him and it wasn't a conversation. And he admits that Kevin told him to strike first before the Bloodline screws him. Roman asks if Sami is with them or against them, and Sami, this big emphatic declaration of just allegiance and loyalty to Roman, saying, think of how small this club is who follows you in the Bloodline. There's all your relatives and there's me, and how appreciative he is that Roman has welcomed him into the circle, made him the honorary Uso. Very intense moment here, and Roman finally gets up after a long pause, and he tells Sami to stand up and give him a hug, and they hug it out, and you see Roman's face, this look on his face where he's not quite sure, where he feels, if he really believes what Sami said here. But this is a great segment, and I think just as part of the overall storyline they're telling throughout the night about Sami and his relationship with the Bloodline, how it pays off in the match itself, this is a great chapter leading to that. Up next for the U.S. Championship, Seth Rollins defends against Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory, sponsored by Beyblades, woo yeah! I could not believe what I saw here. This giant commercial airing where Austin Theory's Titantron was supposed to go. I thought there was a glitch or a botch or something, but nope, this seemed fully intentional. Austin Theory, the Beyblades, man. Lashley showing off the power in the beginning, but he is later taken out, and we get a lot of stuff in the ring with Theory and Rollins. These guys get back on the outside. Theory swinging the steel steps as if it was a Beyblade, Cole. Seth with many chops. He does his dives. That last tope has a rough landing, though. Follows up with an impactful flip, a flying nothing that worked. The Hurt Lock is countered into a pin and broken up with a Phoenix Splash. That was great. Lashley manages to put a Hurt Lock on both Rollins and Theory. Incredible. Rollins with a Mario Stomp off Theory onto Lashley. Rollins with the superplex into the Falcon Arrow, but Lashley hits a not-so-great spear with more of a botched schoolboy attempt. Theory falls onto Rollins and wins the match. New champion. I give it 4 stars out of 5, especially based on the strength of the finish alone. I thought that was a great, shocking way for Theory to regain the championship. I'm not sure how I feel about the U.S. title getting bopped around so much as of late, especially when there's seemingly that report that trying to add more prestige and credibility to the U.S. and the Intercontinental Championships. I'm not sure that's the best way to go about it, but the match itself was a lot of fun. It was as fun as I kind of hoped it was going to be going into it, especially the last 5 minutes. All the 3-man spots they did, I thought, especially near the end, were just so well done. And I think that, except for that spear near the end not being the most perfect in the world, I think that what they conveyed was a lot of fun. It's now time for the main event, the men's War Games match, as the Bloodline take on the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens, with a beautiful tribute to Dusty Rhodes based on his attire here. Butch and Jey Uso, the ones starting off. A lot of that joint manipulation by Butch, the stomping on the hands and whatnot. Ridge Holland showing up. They beat up Jey for a good while here, and it really makes you question why they went with the babyface advantage for this one, because it just, on the surface, it just doesn't feel right for the group. But they do actually do a pretty good job of kind of showing you soon as to why they did it this way, because the next person to come out is supposed to be Jimmy Uso, but Roman stops him and tells Sami Zayn to go instead. Great body language between Sami and Jimmy here, a big Sami Uso chant. So now the question is, can Sami actually be trusted to help Jey out, the one he's been having problems with the entire time since he's joined the Bloodline? So, it's kind of another loyalty test here. And there are some moments here where Sami does try and help out, and Jey doesn't really want that help, or seems to kind of reject what Sami is offering. Drew McIntyre comes out next and goes nuts in the Bloodline for pretty much the next 3 minutes uninterrupted. He's saying he's feeling pretty oozy right now. Jimmy Uso out next, and he brings out the weapons. Well, they made it 1 entrant longer than the women's match. Jey and Sami are arguing, and Jimmy's the man caught in the middle. Kevin Owens comes out next. He drives Jey through a table. Solo Sikoa is next. He goes on a big-ass run here. Great exchange with he and Kevin Owens in the middle of the ring bridge. Sheamus is the final man from his team to enter the match, fighting with Sami at the door before getting in. Faces working together here. The white noise by Sheamus closing things out before Roman Reigns finally saunters his way to the ring. We get the big team face-off here. Roman picking every opponent off one by one. We work our way into a 10-man beat of the Bowdron in the middle of the 2 rings. Roman hits Sheamus with a spear, pins broken up. Jey goes to super kick Butch, but he accidentally maybe hits Sami instead. 1D off the top, but the pin's broken up. Reigns with a spear to Ridge through a table. KO with Roman in the ring now. The pop-up powerbomb, the stunner, but Sami Zayn diving onto the referee to stop the count. I thought that was pretty brilliant. He wouldn't attack his friend, but he would still make the stop. He would still stop that count from happening. That was really cool. So they have this face-off here. Kevin's very angry. Jey comes in to break it up. Sami with a big low blow to Owens. Finally a role reversal for the two here. Sami giving Roman a look. We get the haluva kick. Sets Jey up for the splash. It connects. The Bloodline wins. Sami looking like he just put his dog down, looking distraught here. Then he gets his hugs and acceptance from his boys, and he is suddenly consumed with the power. This one gets 4 stars out of 5 for me. Like I said, babyface advantage War Games matches can be really hard to pull off, and this storyline, the way they told it here, I think was a really good way to accomplish that goal. Still, I think it could have been done just as well if it were a heel-dominated War Games match going into it. I still think the storytelling was brilliant. The body language that Sami Zayn has throughout this whole thing, the story they're weaving, not just in the segments before this one and the one they had on Friday, but also just in this match itself, like being argumentative with Jey throughout, where he's trying to help them, and finally he gets that acceptance from them after helping them out and literally offering KO on a silver platter, setting him up, sacrificing him for the win, and the range of emotions that he goes through once he has done all that. That is just some of the most just well executed stuff that I've seen from WWE in quite some time. What they're doing, this emotional roller coaster we're going on with Sami Zayn. It's going to be heartbreaking as hell when the Bloodline eventually turn on Sami and kick him out anyway. But where they're going with this, it is, far and away, just it's revitalized everything about the Roman Reigns arc and his reign of dominance, and it makes things like interesting with it. And I think it's brilliant stuff. And I think that's what really helps elevate this War Games match for me. My grade for Survivor Series 2022 War Games Edition is a B+. I think, first of all, you got to give credit to everyone involved in both War Games matches. Really gutsy performances by all of them. Even if some of the stuff we saw in those matches may not have been executed the right way or didn't look perfect, I think, especially in the main event, the storytelling they had with that absolutely killed. I think that a lot of the undercard was good. Really only one match that I didn't really care for, and that was Ronda and Shotzi, but everything else around that I think made up for it. And even though we didn't get any Survivor Series matches at Survivor Series, I think that the way this show felt, it was just a change of pace, and it made it feel like a big deal. Again, getting rid of that whole phony brand supremacy that really doesn't mean anything and adds nothing to the storylines, really, I think that's a real good step in the right direction. And so whether or not War Games has a permanent fixture on Survivor Series or can be just kind of a floating gimmick match now brought out for intense, emergency purposes, I think that's left up to the future, I guess. But I think that bringing War Games onto the main roster, I think, was a success. I think people got it right away. As I've talked about in my video about War Games this past week, people love good cage matches, and they have the drama and everything thrown in there. So got a little bit of everything from those War Games matches for sure. And like I said, if we can't get blood, they gave us a lot of weapons. But what did you think of the show, folks? Let me know in the comment section below, and take a good look at this beard here, because by the end of this week, I'm pretty sure it's going to look a lot different, and it will be Steinerized. Thank you to all those who voted in the Regret Beard poll this month. More than 2,000 of you voted, and by a wide margin, the Steiner won. 59% of the vote, and of course, that will be getting Heifer International will be getting 59% of the money I'm going to be donating across 4 different charities. Thank you all so much who helped. And of course, my beard products from Ringmaster Beard Company, which will also benefit those charities. Those are still on sale. The link to that is in the description here at the top of the description. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.